Hi, I'm Griffin Kerstetter, and I went to Nepal for 2 weeks with my mom. She is a professor at the University of Pittsburgh Graduate School of Public Health. She and her PhD student, Sarah Bauman, are working with Nepal Fertility Care Center, or NFCC, on women's health. Sarah was in Nepal for the year and my mom was going to visit her, and I decided to join her. Before we begin, let me show you a map of where Nepal is and where we went. These are the things I love about Nepal and the reasons I will be coming back as soon as possible. When I think of Nepal, the first thing I think of is the colorful stupas decorated with prayer flags, the fancy clothing, the bright colored buildings, the vibrant statues, and the intricately carved wooden temples. The history of Nepal is so rich, and you can see it everywhere you turn. The temples have been around for so long, and in 2015 the country experienced a horrible earthquake, but they're working hard to rebuild. That includes the long process of slowly recarving and restoring the temples. One of the things I found interesting to learn about was the way that so many of the people are both Buddhist and Hindu, and the complex religious relationships they hold dear. The other thing about Nepal's culture that I found interesting was the amount of monks and the way they were raised, but also how they seem to know pop culture, too. I had an arm brace on, and one of them said I looked like Terminator. My mom and Sarah love Himalayan salt and singing bowls. They're believed to have healing properties and realign your chakras. Mommy bought 2 large singing bowls and at least 5 pounds of salt. I don't think singing bowls and salt have any magical properties, but if it's your happy place, then go for it. The next thing I think about when I think of Nepal is the people. I liked walking behind Sarah as we ran through motorcycle-filled streets, how she could get Nepali prices from the locals because she spoke Nepali and is a bargaining expert. The next thing that comes to mind is Pema. Pema is the director of NFCC, and she showed us around Nepal and spent the week with us in the Terai. She inspires me in so many ways. She doesn't let anything come in her way of doing what she believes is right, has no time to deal with unnecessary stops, and is a wonderful person to be around and makes you feel comfortable no matter what. I also think of Sarah's friends, Mingma, who was wonderful to be around and could answer any of my questions, and even better at bargaining than Sarah, and her other friend, who used to be a monk. He led us around during the religious holiday and was happy to explain anything to me about being a monk. I would be remiss if I didn't mention the wonderful girls that we met while traveling in the Terai. They inspired me to never give up on something I wanted, but they also made me realize I'm in a position to help them and I have a responsibility to do whatever I can. The third thing I think of when someone says Nepal is the food. It was delicious but a bit too spicy for me. The Nepali set meal is a staple at all restaurants, and most Nepali families eat it for both breakfast and dinner. Mommy loves it. I really liked the momos, which are like dumplings that are filled with Indian curry, and they're so yummy. I was worried Mommy was going to become a momo because she ate so many of them everywhere we went. Then there's Wai and Coke in a bottle. Wai is like ramen noodles, but a bit better, and you can eat it hard or cooked. Both ways it's amazing. Something about Coke in a bottle makes it sweeter, and just altogether the best drink when traveling. And the combination is the best, on the go or in the car. My favorite Nepali food by far, though, was the tea. It's made on the stovetop in milk and is similar to chai tea with masala. It was so good I brought back 2 pounds to Pittsburgh. Seeing a rhino was one of the things I wanted to do while I was in Nepal, so it wouldn't be an honest list if I didn't include the animals. As soon as we landed, I was taken by the street dogs and cats and took so many photos and videos. One stray dog that walked with Sarah, Mommy, and I named Tim. He was our trail guide up the side of the mountain to get to one of the stupas. The other animals I really liked we saw in Chitwan. They were the rhino, who looked like he was prehistoric, the sloth bear, who was essentially a black bear club with soft toes, the crocodiles, who are so gross looking with their long, narrow snouts and old man toes, and peacocks, who I have to admit that I'm jealous that we only have turkeys while they have peacocks. The other sight we saw while in Chitwan was the elephant sanctuary. We got up very, very early to go see the elephants with the sunrise. I didn't realize though until we got there that you had to cross a super rickety bridge, but it was all worth it because there were so many baby elephants, one that was even born the night before and was so small in comparison. And the older babies were playing with each other. It was really cute to watch. Part of the fun of visiting Nepal was the adventure. There were several questionable modes of transportation that we used when traveling. We traveled in 2 boats, one to get to the animal reserve to Chitwan that seemed to be just a hollowed out log, and one in Pokhara that took us to where we would begin our hike to the stupa, and where we would meet Tim. There were also some questionable planes between stops. They were very small, had interesting features such as no door on the cockpit. The transportation feature that stood out to me the most was driving. Most people rode motorcycles, but if they did drive a car, it was very small. And they used what I would call a sidewalk as a 2-way road. And then they drove as if it was a race to overtake the most cars and make the most noise. And if you're a pedestrian, watch out! Pedestrians are the lowest in the road's pecking order and need to take great caution when crossing the road. My approach was to cling to Sarah and trust she knew what she was doing. The other part of the adventure that was super fun was the Jeep truck in Chitwan. It was very bouncy and there was nothing really holding you in, but seeing the animals made it all worth it. I can't end this without pointing out that the Himalayan mountain range, which includes Mount Everest, was a backdrop everywhere we went. We saw them before we even landed the first day. Walking through Kathmandu, drove up and down them to get to the Terai. Note there are no tunnels, and the most breathtaking sight was watching the sunrise over them in Pokhara. So here's my to-do list to prepare for my return trip. Learn some Nepali. I can say pani, which means water, but I don't think that's enough. Take bargaining classes so I can get a good price on the rest of my pocket god collection. Finish my Living Goddess book. The Living Goddess is a girl who is believed to have a goddess living through her until she gets her period. Read more about the history and religious stories from Nepal. And finally, finish my Nepal-inspired dress.